Yes, please. Is that okay? Sorry.
Hi there, Lindsay.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, darling. Not too bad.
Not too bad. So what I'm doing today is I'm just going to ask you a few questions to try and help raise awareness on organ donation and the current, obviously, situation with COVID. So for people that don't know, I've had a double lung transplant and you've also had a double lung transplant.
I have.
But I'm wondering if you can explain to people that are watching this video what your medical history is, as well as your current situation.
Well, I was born with a genetic lung disease, similar to cystic fibrosis, but it's called alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. I have a background in cystic fibrosis as well. I was born with it. I got faulty genes from both parents, very similar to CF, and it's a little bit more rare. It means that it develops slightly differently, and that I developed emphysema and bronchiectasis as if I was a smoker, but I've never smoked.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of get lumped in with people who have quite a lot of the time, and told we've got COPD or we've got asthma and things like that. When actually, you know, we don't drink, we don't smoke. Our livers are affected by it also sometimes. It means that I don't produce a protein that my body requires in order to protect my lungs from pollutants and any damage. So it's a bit like if you were born naked as we are, and you never ever put any shoes or clothes on your whole life, you'd be covered in cuts and bruises and whatever. That's a bit like my lungs, because they've not been protected their whole life. Mm-hmm. So whatever I've been exposed to, willingly, wittingly or unwittingly, has damaged them, and it's irreparable. It doesn't repair because the protein doesn't come up to repair it. Mm-hmm. So by the time I was in my late 30s, I was down to probably about 30% lung capacity by then, and on oxygen for about 10 years. I'm 49 now. I got a double lung transplant last year when I was 48, but a couple of days from my 48th birthday. I was 47 actually. A couple of days from my 48th birthday, I was gifted life, and it was a bit traumatic. The transplant didn't go according to plan. Lots of things that went wrong actually, and I was very fortunate to come out the other side. I did, and I've had 18 months or a year anyway of lots of fun things actually, climbing and snowboarding and cycling and weightlifting and doing all the crazy stuff that I love to do, which has been an absolute gift. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I've had is I had a problem with my kidneys, because the medicines that we take to stop us rejecting our lungs are very harsh on the kidneys. And there's always a balance. There's always a balance. And quite often many of us, as you know, Lisa, have to go on and have kidney transplants as well. And people don't realise that. They don't realise the battles that we have. We also often, some of us are left with hearts that beat too fast, that are tachycardic all the time. Mine's like that. Even at rest, I can have a very high heart rate. And it means there's not a lot of scope for you to do much, because if you move around too much, then heart rate becomes dangerously high. So we deal with a lot of things. And I think people think we come in, we get new lungs, we go out and we're brand new again. What they forget is, one, we still have the genetic disease we started with.
Yep.
It's going to do the same to the lungs we've got now. We're still firefighting that disease. There still are no cures for our diseases. There are things that might make it easier on us, but there are no cures for us. So we know that we're starting another fight. We get new lungs and we're on borrowed time again. Mm-hmm. And we're on borrowed time again because, as my consultant said, having a double lung transplant is a chronic disease in itself.
A new one.
You know, it's a new disease. And we then get all the other ones on top of that. So it's by no means a walk in the park. And for me, I was changed onto another drug, which was easier on the kidneys, but has had a freak reaction on my lungs, one they've never seen here in the hospital before. They've read about it in books, they know it can happen, but they've never actually seen it happen to anyone. Okay. And it's happened to me. So it's meant that my lungs in the space of 5 weeks have become riddled with fibrosis, to the point where I can barely walk. Mm-hmm. And I'm on 24-hour oxygen. And 5 weeks ago I was kayaking. So it's been a bit of a punch in the face. Mm-hmm. So the new lungs are now ruined due to a drug. They've put me back onto the old medicine, My kidneys are coping with it, and they're dancing a bit like teenagers, which is typical. So I have great kidneys now, but now I have bad lungs again. So I've had 18 months or maybe a year since I came out of hospital. I've had a year with some sort of normality. But as you'll know, transplanted lungs are not normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not. When people say, oh, you're like me now, someone who's got lungs from when they were, oh, you're like me now. No, I'm really not.
Yeah.
You know that feeling that you get around your chest where you've always got that tightness. You always feel like you've got a band. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that band feeling where you feel like someone's just doing that tightness.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you breathe in, there's that kind of tightness. That doesn't go away. You never feel what I would say normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what normal is. We don't know what normal is.
No, we can only assume.
Our normal is not anyone else's. So it's a bizarre feeling. And transplanted lungs are also brittle. So they're not flexible and soft like normal lungs. So they need a lot of care, a lot of attention. You know, they're like a spoiled child, really. You've got to sort of give them what they want, or they won't do as they're told, basically. Mm-hmm. So they're very, very precious. It's almost like a bit like wearing glass shoes, you know, but by the same token, you're told to go out and live your life, because we don't know how long we have when we get lungs. Mm-hmm. We're just going to go live our lives, do our thing. But what a lot of us are very good at hiding, a lot of the pain, the discomfort, the hospital appointments, the changes in drugs, the effects on our bodies, we kind of don't tell people a lot of that, because we don't want them to be disappointed. We want them to share the joy
of us looking, seeming well. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And correct. I think we're all guilty of that. So I'm now waiting for new lungs again. So
on the list.
Yes, I'm on the list. I'm urgently listed for lungs. I'm currently living in the hospital because I'm too sick to come home. Mm-hmm. I'm in London, in Harefield in London, despite living in Scotland. This was my hospital who transplanted me, and they're very professional, they're lovely, and the staff are amazing. I don't actually feel like I'm waiting as such, because I busy myself doing bits and bobs, and I'm quite sociable. Mm-hmm. I'm not sitting here thinking, is it now, is it now, is it now? That also comes from having waited before.
You know how to deal with the wait.
Yeah, and you know yourself, you can get so many false calls. They could come through the door today and say there's lungs for you. They prep you, get you ready. 5 minutes before you go to theatre, they're not good enough.
Did you have false calls the last time?
I didn't get any false calls, but I saw you go through it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I've seen my friends go through it. One of my friends had 7 false calls, so she got hers on the 8th. So it happens, and as much as I haven't personally experienced that, I went through your trauma with you because I felt as if it was a part of my journey, because I was also in the similar situation to you. Mm-hmm. I watched you and followed you and was invested in you. Yeah. So you're hurt. When you were hurting, I was hurting. When you were waiting, I was waiting. And you know, I was watching and waiting in every moment for your minute.
So it was like what I was going through, you could almost, it helped you know what to expect.
Yeah.
So it would make it a bit more of a reality.
Yeah.
Like if a false call was to come. So not to expect your first call was necessarily going to go ahead, but fortunately it did. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, but I didn't expect it to, because I'd been through it with you. So, and I obviously watched you, and you were so good at letting us in. You were so good at documenting it for us. I don't know that you realised how beneficial that was to people like me, but it really, really was. It was your journey, but it felt like it was part of mine.
Yep.
So I'm always grateful to you for that. And so now we're waiting again, and they ordinarily don't transplant again so soon. 18 months after you had one, it's very, very rare they would even consider going back in. Mm-hmm. And for me, my saving grace has been my sport, Lisa. You know what I'm like with sport. I'm a bit of a fiend. And that has been my saving grace, because despite being really sick, my body's really fit. Yeah. And it has stood me, and they went to the MDT meeting, which is the multidisciplinary team meeting. You know that, when they go and they discuss you and decide what they're going to do. And for me, it was unanimous. Even the surgeons didn't quibble, and they normally do. Apparently, they went, "No, we'll do it."
Because your body, because you've kept fit, muscles, things like that, and you've got a good mindset of determination and not wanting to give up.
Yeah, that's
They take
exactly
that
it.
they take that a lot into consideration, don't they?
They do your mental for sure, because the psychologist comes down, you know this, we go through psychology again. I don't think people realise what we go through. I really
No.
don't. I mean, we've got dietitians, we've got physiotherapists, we've got psychotherapists, psychologists, we've got surgeons, we've got consultants, we've got registrars, doctors, you name it, we have it. They're all about us. It's like a swarm of bees. And one goes out, one comes in. And at the moment, I've also got the palliative care team because I'm dying.
Mm-hmm.
Because my lungs are dying, and you've been there. We've been dying before.
Yeah.
You know, we know how to do this dying thing.
We also know how to run away from it. You know,
when bloody right we do.
When it's trying to grip us, and we're like, no, sorry, not today.
Not today, exactly.
Not today.
Today is not a good day.
No.
Exactly, not a good day for that. So the palliative care team come in, and I call them the death squad, but they're lovely actually. They're lovely. They're lovely. They don't talk about death all the time, but they do prepare you, because they prepare you for the fact that I might not make it to transplant. Yeah. You know, these might give up before I make it to transplant, and there are things that you have to consider. And I know you'll have had to consider them, and at your age, I can't even imagine that at your age, having to think about those things. I'm 49 now. I've got children. I have to think about what I'm leaving behind. Mm-hmm. I have to think about making sure that everything's in order for them.
Yep.
Should anything happen to me. And I did it all last year. Things have changed, not a lot, but I've got additional bits this year. And they say, make sure it's sorted, because, again, you and I both know, when you get to ITU and they give you those fancy drugs and you start the delirium, anything that's in your head becomes massive.
Oh, that was the worst part for me, was the recovery and what the drugs were making me think.
Oh, the same.
It got to the point where they actually had to restrain my wrists to the bed with straps. Yep. Because I was trying to self-sabotage myself and the staff.
It was, I was like possessed, I think. I don't know what happened to me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I tried to pull my intubation tube out. I did all sorts. Yep. Hence the tracking. You had that as well. We must be like feisty. Me and you must be dead feisty.
I know.
It's the Scot in us. It is the feisty Scot.
The Scottish fight.
And I know. Well, I'm having none of that. And I was the same. I spent, I don't know how long afterwards, trying to work out what was true and what wasn't. Mm-hmm. What actually did I think had happened? Mm-hmm. What had I made up in this delirium? Everyone was lying to me as far as I was concerned.
Yep.
You know, no, that did happen. That did. Mm-hmm. And then when some things dawn on you, you then start apologising to people, because you're like, oh, I can't believe I said that. Tell me I didn't say that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm not looking forward to that again.
No, I know. I think if I was in your position, that's the thing I think that would freak me out the most, because I know what that part was like. And like you say, even though I spoke to my psychologist after my transplant, it was the same. It was what I was thinking real? Was I being...
Yeah, exactly.
Because I thought that they were trying to kill me and they were abusing me. And my mum, I can remember points where she kept apologising to them. You know, this isn't my daughter. My daughter's very polite. She's not normally like this. But again, even to this day, like, even if I'm trying to go to sleep, some of those traumas can come back into my head. And it's like two voices, one saying, Lisa, it's not real. And the other one saying, well, it could be. Part of that could be real. Yep. What you experienced and what you thought was going on.
I know. I think it's PTSD. I would say I had an element of PTSD after that.
Oh.
For sure.
I looked up something, and it's called, there is something that can happen to people in ICU, and it's a form of PTSD.
Yeah.
I think I first heard it being discussed on the TV, and then I looked it up, and it is called something.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And so that is the one thing, like you say, that I'm not looking forward to at all. They say it doesn't happen to everybody, but hey, you know, we'll see. So there's that. What they've said is they don't think I'll wait long for lungs, because my blood group's B positive, and I can also take O.
Good, that's good.
So O positive, and that's 48% of the population or something like that.
How long did you wait the last time?
10 months.
It's not bad as well.
Not bad. But they reckon, I think they're thinking sort of weeks, days, weeks. They're not thinking, because literally the next set of B or O to come through the door of mine. So we're also getting offered more organs here, because we're the only ones that are fully operational and still operating through COVID fully.
Okay.
So we're getting offered a lot. So for a rubbish situation, I'm in the best one I could be, really.
That's good.
I'm maintaining my physiotherapy. I'm maintaining my food. So I've got my fridge, doing my Sainsbury's deliveries to top up the lovely hospital food. So I'm doing that. I'm off an awful lot of the meds I was on. I was very sick when I came in. I had a collapsed lung, and I took 3 anaphylactic reactions in 1 week, and my lungs and everything were just so inflamed. But we got through all that, and we're just dealing with fibrosis now. But it seems to have just ravished them in such a short period of time. It's quite a shocker. But I'm hopeful of another transplant. And I discovered that if I get transplanted again, I still keep some of this donor, which I didn't realise. You keep your own bronchus. I still keep some of the original donor
As
in me.
The other bit of the lung?
What I do is I keep my own bronchus. As you know, we keep our own bronchus. And there's 2 little bits that come off our lungs here. You know, the little, I don't know what they're called, but they come from here and the lungs join on. Well, these 2 little bits here, I keep from this donor. And then I get new lungs on there. So I'll be me, the old donor, and the new donor. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So,
they say sharing is caring.
Exactly. And you know what? He's kept me alive for 18 months. And I said, actually, it's quite nice that I get to keep a little bit from him, you know? Because I'm very grateful to him for the 18 months that I've had. So it's been good. And right now, I'm going to share something with my daughter's in labour right now, this very moment.
Wow.
She's So also he's enabled me to see my new grandchild, hopefully in a couple of hours' time. So and I got a new grandchild last year too that I wouldn't have seen. So you know.
Wow. So are they not having the baby nearby, or in Scotland?
In Inverness. So but yeah, my younger daughter, she had a little boy last June that I wouldn't have seen, you know. And then my daughter, she's due a little girl today. So these are wonderful things that I would never have got to see. So I'm grateful for whether I get another transplant or not. I'm seeing things I wouldn't have seen already, you know. So
and I think when some people, when they say get grandkids or a baby's born or a wedding or things like that, that's not something that they would naturally think, like, oh, I'm lucky to see this. But it's the first thought that's at the front of our mind when it happens to, like, you and I.
It is.
So with the current COVID situation, what are you allowed when it comes to visitors, if any?
None
at all.
So I've been here 5 weeks now, and I haven't had one because we're not allowed. So nobody's allowed in, you're not allowed out. So that's tough. Going through a transplant without somebody with you, I can't even imagine it, because my partner was my rock the last time, like your mum was yours. There's no substitute for someone that loves you at your bedside when you go through something as massive as we went through. And again, I don't think people realise how massive it is. One of the surgeons here said it's the second largest operation anybody could go through in their lifetime is a double lung transplant. So it's huge. And the other one's on the brain. And so even things like getting ice and putting them on your lips. There was no ice in the department last time. And I was desperately thirsty. I would have mugged a small child who went past, do you know what I mean, for a glass of water. I was so thirsty. And I wasn't allowed to drink because of the trachea. You could only have sips, this and that. I wanted a right good gulp, you know. And there was actually a nurse at the bottom of my bed drinking a can of Iron Brew. I could have actually swiped her. It was almost like torture. I remember seeing her. Well, I think I saw her do that. Did I really?
Did you really?
Did I really?
You could have been really craving Iron Brew and imagined.
I know, exactly.
It being there.
I know, honestly, I vividly, I'm like, she was drinking Iron Brew at the bottom of my bed, taunting me. And but the fact that he was there, able to go down to the Co-op and come back with ice cubes, rubbing on my mouth and whatever, these little things made it bearable. And I'm now going to have to go through transplant without those things. And I found it very traumatic when he left. He would go, I would become anxious, traumatized, hysterical, you name it. None of those things are my normal traits. But it was, I was just, I couldn't bear it, the thought of him not being there. Because like you, I felt as if the staff were doing bad things to me. Yeah, doing bad things to me, because my head was pickled with all the drugs. So I'm not looking forward to going through that on my own. I think it's going to be really tough. So at the moment, there's no indication that that's changing anytime soon. hospital visits. I mean, they're opening pubs and doing whatever they're doing, but we can be left behind really here. They're not even considering us at the moment, it would appear. But there's a hospital near here that's A&E is shut down at the moment because of a second wave. So, and it's in this borough. So perhaps I'm just as well sitting tight. And
especially when you hear that the COVID numbers in London are that bit higher. So I looked up from April this year to July, there has been 695 transplants carried out, like different transplants. And I did read that. So you're saying your unit has been open and has been carrying out transplants all the time, but I think it's been from hospital to different clinics and regions. Some have been completely shut. Some have been carrying out transplants on patient-to-patient basis, you know, taking all factors into consideration.
If
someone's on the urgent list. But I mean, they are trying to open up more transplant centres, and there is talks of, can someone who has COVID, who's passed away, pass
give
that?
It organ.
Can they? And I think at the moment it looks like they can. They don't think that the COVID can be transferred that way, but I'm not really sure. It still seemed a bit...
I'd be a bit nervous. I wouldn't want a pair of COVID lungs, I'm just saying.
No, I know. Like, if they've tested positive, you know, if they were pronounced brain dead, is that something that they're carrying out now, like the COVID test?
I don't know, because surely you're then starting off with lungs that are already compromised in some way, but I don't know. Maybe their heart's okay, maybe their kidneys are okay.
Yeah.
I know here, they've already transplanted their yearly quota because we've been given so many organs because we were fully operational. So they've already, what they would normally do in a year here, they've done already. So
they've hit their normal statistic, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's only halfway through the year, but they've already done it because they've been offered so many organs. But what they're saying is they don't seem to be getting so many hearts for some reason. They're getting lungs, but not heart. I don't know what that's about. But again, you don't know what's going to come through the door. And my gain is someone else's loss, and I'm always conscious of that. And I think we do get survivor guilt to an extent, because although that person would have passed away regardless, you still feel slightly guilty that they've had to pass away in order for you to live. It's just a thing. It's just a thing. And you're like me as well, where you've taken your donor with you, literally take them with you and run amok, and you're conscious of the fact that you're together. It's not just you. It's not just you. You're kind of, we're doing this together, kiddo. Let's go. Like when you went to Canada, you know, let's go, kids. We're going to Canada. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
And I can imagine you having that little conversation in your mind, you know. Right, kid, we're going to Canada. What do you think about that? Off we go.
Like, that's what I said when I went to Canada, I went to Australia. Maybe this, the woman of mine, maybe she'd been, maybe she'd wanted to go.
Yeah.
And it's like you're saying, like the survivor's guilt. It's sort of, I don't know, like you feel I didn't want to say you owe the donor, but it's some sort of, like, I'm not going to sit in my bum. I'm going to do this and this for this person, as well as for myself.
Absolutely, not.
But it's like you've got this inner desire to tick boxes for them as well.
It is. That's exactly what it's like. Yeah, you've got it spot on. Yeah.
So you've discussed a bit about your hopes and your fears. So you're quite hopeful that because of the unit that you're in, that the lungs will come along.
Yeah, I'm confident they'll come. When, I don't know, obviously.
But you're a wee bit fearful in the fact of what your recovery will be like.
Absolutely, and also you're in the lap of the gods, because a second time transplant is more risky than the first. You're going under general anaesthetic again. You know, there's no guarantees you come through that bit. Never mind get to the next stage. So I'm not only natural. I'm going to have these fears, but I'm very fortunate in that I'm naturally positive. I'm really good at having negative thoughts getting replaced by positive ones in my mind. I taught myself that. I read a book called The Secret many years ago, and I thought it was American claptrap at first, and actually it actually changed the way I thought, and I worked really hard on myself mentally, so that I got to a point now where my natural default is positivity. And it took time. It takes time. If you want to do it, you can do it. I know you're the same, and you work really hard on that too. Doesn't mean we don't have our moments, because everybody does. But I think that what you and I have is an ability to see good in things and to see a way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as long as we have that, we should be able to keep going as long as we possibly can. So.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I've heard of that book, The Secret, but I've never actually read it. Is there a few sequels as well?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. There's
Mm-hmm.
a hero. There's gratitude. There's lots of them. And I honestly thought it was American Claptrap until I decided that enough was enough. I had to stop this negativity. I had to stop this wallowing, and it changed the way I thought. It made me appreciate everything and see things very differently. And I bought it for several people now, and it's done the same for them. And it's
a choice. It's a choice.
It is.
To have that mindset. And people were saying to me at the start of lockdown, like, you live by yourself, and how are you managing? And like you say, yeah, we do have down days, and we do think, why have drew the short straw sort of thing. But then I kept thinking, I've had it worse. I could have it worse. So let's just roll with the punches and appreciate what I actually do have.
Exactly.
So even though I was stuck indoors, like I was sometimes before my transplant, I'm like, I can shower myself. I can stand and cook a meal. I couldn't do that when I was waiting on my transplant. I'm like, so exactly. I even though I'm not getting to do what I want to do at the moment, it's still not a bad situation that I'm in, personally.
No. I know. I think because when we live with chronic illness for so long as well, you either learn to appreciate or you become very depressed. But I think we've learned to appreciate the small things. And as you say, being able to wash yourself, because I'm now back to being washed. I'm back to being washed, back to not being able to stand up. I'm back to all that. And you know what I mean, back to although I can't do things for myself again. But you do appreciate every single thing you can do. So.
Sorry, my dad's just appeared at the window. I'm on a call, Dad.
It's all right. We're almost done anyway, darling. Go and let him in. We're almost done anyway, if you want.
I don't know what he's got. The dog's collar. I don't know the dog's lead. I don't know what he's trying to tell me.
Are you going to go for a walk? Well, listen, I'm happy to go now anyway, Dan. It's almost lunchtime, so. But it's been lovely chatting to you, and you know where I am if you want anything else. And it's lovely following you. It's lovely being sort of getting to know you over the last few years on Facebook, and I've always been behind you, kid. Wee one, as I call you. I've always been behind you. Yeah, always been behind you.
I appreciate you coming to do this video because I hope that people that watch it are talking about organ donation and that it can help you get your lungs quicker. But I do feel your positivity, and I do agree that you're in the right place and that these lungs, the new set of lungs, will be like just around the corner. And like you say, it's when you least expect it.
Absolutely.
When you think they're coming to your door to say, we're here to give you this other medication, it might just be them coming to the door to actually say, we've got a new gift for you.
Absolutely, you never know.
Fingers crossed, and I'm sending you all positive wishes, and I hope that your lunch is a bit enjoyable today.
Fingers crossed. All right, sweetie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, darling. Bye, darling. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.